They laughed at the girl with a clipboard until 3 seconds later, her shot carved silence into steel. Evelyn Ravencross wasn't supposed to touch a rifle. She was just logistics, a body for spreadsheets and crates. But when the M110 settled into her hands, the desert itself seemed to hush. Careful there. Raven, someone jeered. That thing's got more kick than you. The heat carried the laugh, but silence made it heavy. Ironcliff Range was built to strip men of ego. The crowd waited to watch her fail. They thought the badge meant harmless. The ponytail meant compliance. But while they mocked, she listened. The wind hissed between cliffs, a rhythm no sensor could catch. She shifted 10 feet left. The old spotter's grin faltered. Real shooters moved like that. Raven dropped prone. Bipod set. Scope dialed. A round was chambered for her. Still mocking, she exhaled slow. 2 perfect seconds passed, then thunder cracked. The steel target, 200 yards out. Rang center. No drift, no error. Just silence. By the second shot, the laughter was gone. By the third, they held their breath with her. When she rose, brushing dust from her knees, their silence clung like heat. Respect always unsettled men who'd built confidence on mockery. I slung the rifle back to the bench. Calm, routine. For me, it was nothing new. For them, it was something they couldn't explain. And then I caught it, the whisper cutting through the crowd. Pull her record. Keys clattered. Screens lit. And I didn't need to turn to know what they'd find. Shadow line stamped top secret. Pages of black ink, and numbers no one had the right to see. The desert had just reminded them who I was. And by morning, the rest of the base would know too. Hey soldiers, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next mission. The rifle lay on the bench like it remembered me. Stock worn smooth. Scope tuned to a single set of eyes. Mine. I spread it out slow. Each piece falling into place with a familiarity that pressed the room into hush. The lead instructor's boots crunched closer. No swagger now. His face carried something heavier. "Ma'am," he started, voice uneven. "We owe you." I raised a hand before the apology landed. "No apologies needed. You couldn't have known." He stepped back. Silence folding around us like canvas. I set the rifle at the same mat where their mockery began. The canyon wind flickered again, erratic, the kind that fooled even computers. This valley lies, I thought. But lies have patterns, if you listen long enough. They confess. 3 targets. 3 distances. The timer clicked. I moved half asleep, half awake, breath timed. Scope tuned by memory. Fingers working in a language muscle remembered before thought. 18 seconds. 3 hits. Clean as prayer. I broke the rifle down, slid each piece into its case as if closing scripture. No smirks, no comments. Just silence, the kind born when people glimpse something they weren't supposed to. When I shouldered the case, the silence cracked. A voice. Low. Cautious, pull her record. Keys clattered. Curiosity is a disease soldiers can't cure. I didn't look back. I already knew what the screen would show. Evelyn R. Cross logistics. Observer. After that, long corridors of black bars. Top secret stamps. Truths carved away. A few lines always slip through. Shadow line. Sable tier 1. 27 confirmed neutralizations. Engagements past 300 yards. Status inactive. The whisper spread fast. We mocked a tier 1, someone breathed. Another corrected. Hushed. No, we mocked shadow line. Respect shifted the air. In the chow line. At the motor pool. During those fragile pauses between drills, eyes slid toward me. Then away. As if to meet them would cost something. That night the past unspooled anyway. Ponta Serrano Ridge, a sky so cold it cut. Logan Reeve Calder's hand steady on my shoulder. "Don't read the wind like numbers," he'd said. "Read it like breath." Mad words, until the night itself answered. By morning, the whispers had escaped Ironcliff's fence. Someone higher had seen the feed. Orders slipped down like shadows, top access reinstated. Debrief requests. Clearance unlocked. Anonymity was gone. I shut the case. Felt the hollow where quiet used to live. They were going to want something. You could hear it in the way the lieutenant's eyes darted to his phone, in the way the range itself seemed to lean forward, waiting. And somewhere beyond those fences, men in suits were already making lists. The target had been a command hub hidden in the hills, armored with shadows, guarded by men carrying rifles they had no right to own. Satellites saw nothing. Drones failed. That was why they sent us. Shadowline didn't need maps. We carried silence better than paper. I lay alone on a ridge, half a click out, rifle steady under starlight. The wind that night was chaos, a knife twisting through the valley. At 0200 the team moved. At 0215 panic hit the comms, gunfire tearing across stone. Shouts in Pashto, muzzle flashes clawing the dark. Extraction denied. No support inbound. I was the only overwatch. My answer came in the only language I still trusted. One shot cut down the machine gunner. Another silenced their radio. A third shattered a lantern, plunging half the hillside into darkness. Under that curtain, my team crawled, dragging Sergeant Lewis, blood pouring from his chest. Every round I fired bought another breath, another step toward survival. By the time the chopper thundered in, I was dry. Lewis was half dead. The crew chief called him dead weight. I carried him anyway. Blood filled my vest until my boots slipped in it. He lived barely. Command buried the op. Too many questions. They stamped it successful. Then ended my deployments. "You've given enough," they told me. Translation: I had seen too much, done too much. Better to fold me under logistics and pretend Shadowline never existed. Years of silence followed, until one shot at Dry Creek Valley cracked it wide open. The range changed overnight. Boasts softened. Recruits straightened when I walked past. Instructors spoke quieter. Sergeant Clay tried to reassert control, barking about wind shifts, but when a recruit turned and asked, "Ma'am, do you agree the whole line waited?" "2 clicks," I said flatly. The recruit adjusted bullseye. Clay's jaw tightened. He said nothing. From that day, they looked at me more than him. By the third morning, it was ritual. Glance my way. Wait for silence. The range no longer belonged to them, it belonged to me. Whispers spread. I saw the order myself, clearance reinstated. Someone high up wanted me back. The next recruit swaggered in loud. Cocky, "So who's the top shot here?" No one answered. Instead, every head turned toward me. I was already behind the scope. Even the drone above seemed fixed. Not on targets, but on my trigger finger. The kid learned fast this ground now answered to Raven. They made it official. Papers hit my desk stamped with codes I hadn't seen in years. Independent instructor. Precision marksmanship. I hadn't signed. Didn't need to. Someone had pushed it through. By dawn, 12 recruits stood in a half circle. 200 had applied. 12 were chosen. I cut deeper, not by who shot best, but who could sit still the longest. Hear more than they spoke. Marksmanship isn't about memory. I told them, it's about silence. I stripped away their rifles. Before you touch steel, you'll learn to hear the ground breathe. Some fidgeted, restless. Others grew frustrated. But just a few sat still, listening. And I knew then the past wasn't done with me. It was calling me back. through them. By the third session, the cracks showed. Recruits who once smirked through meditation now sat still, shoulders lowered, eyes sharper. They noticed dust spirals in the air, echoes bouncing off canyon walls, silence pulsing like a heartbeat. When one asked, "Ma'am, is this really part of shooting?" I gave the truth. Great shots are made long before the trigger is pulled. Command noticed too. Men in pressed uniforms lingered at the edge, clipboards ready, sunglasses hiding intent. They didn't speak, just waited for proof. I made clear with every glance I wasn't performing for them. When one officer broke cover, asking how exactly I was training them, I answered the same way I did the kids. I'm not teaching them to shoot. I'm teaching them to listen. He scribbled nothing. Maybe he couldn't understand how silence could kill. By week 2, rifles came back, only after they proved they could feel the wind before it shifted. They missed, adjusted, missed again. But their misses weren't failures, they were data written in dirt. When one recruit finally landed a shot he wouldn't have dared weeks earlier, he didn't cheer, he exhaled steady, like he expected it. That's when I knew the training was working. Rumors bled fast. Other bases wanted in. Pentagon suits came smiling, offers wrapped in classified ink. I cut them off, not interested. They blinked, not interested in what in, going back. Because this wasn't about tallying kills anymore. It was about ensuring the next generation never needed me. But silence never lasts. Chaos always comes. Sirens wailed across Dry Creek Valley without warning. Sharp, urgent, not a drill. Smoke curled from the eastern ridge 2 miles out, a convoy under ambush. Quick response was stretched thin. That left us. "Bring your team in." The commander's voice cracked over comms. My team, 12 recruits, barely shaped, not ready. But combat doesn't wait for readiness. Fear glazed their eyes. Knuckles white on rifles. "Listen to me," I said. Low and steady. You don't chase the fight. You don't panic. You breathe. You listen. We cut across desert in 2 transports. Smoke thickened, bitter. From the ridge we saw the kill zone, 2 trucks disabled. Soldiers pinned. Real death doesn't look like drills. Positions. My tone snapped them back. They scattered, dropped prone, scopes up, hands shaking. Don't just look at the targets. Look at the wind. Look at the dust. I sighted in but held fire. I wanted to see who would. One recruit exhaled, squeezed, dropped an ambusher. Not perfect, not clean, but real. Others followed. Staggered bursts, shaky but deliberate. Minutes stretched into survival. The enemy broke. The convoy held. The ridge smelled of burnt powder as we returned. No celebration, just silence, heavy enough to bow their shoulders. They had learned their first truth: every shot leaves weight behind. At the gate, Brass waited, polished and hungry. "Outstanding work," the commander said, smiling too wide. "Proof the training works. Proof, not survival, not lives saved. Just proof." And that's when I knew. This wasn't an ending. It was only the opening shot of something much larger. The men in suits arrived with polite smiles and the kind of certainty paperback authors love to sell. Not military civilians with Pentagon access and spreadsheets that smelled like decisions made elsewhere. "We've been following your progress," one said, sliding into the chair across from me like he owned the air. "Impressive. Very impressive." The other leaned forward. Softer, persuasive. "You've built something unique here. Miss Cross. Scalable. Formalizable. Deployable." I looked at them the way you look at a wound stitched by strangers. "You want to weaponize instinct," I said flatly. Their correction was smooth, with the right framework. "This could change everything." "No. I cut them off before the sentence hardened into a contract. I'm not here to mass-produce ghosts. I'm here to make sure the next generation survives. They blinked, then smiled like men who already had the answer archived. This isn't a request. One said, sooner or later, someone higher will decide for you. Their footsteps left the room heavier than when they came. That night I opened the old leather case, not the rifle, but Logan Reeves' journal. Wind maps, breath rhythms, diagrams drawn like prayers. His promise inked into the margins, you'll know when to give it away. After the ridge, after watching my recruits shift from students to survivors, I knew the time was near. Command pressed harder briefings, protocol binders, polite orders sharpening into demands. They wanted checklists. I played along, nodded, signed. Survival sometimes looks like folding, but folding isn't surrender. So after lights out, I gathered my 12 on the far edge of the valley, under stars that refuse to be catalogued. They'll try to use you. I told them, don't let them. Keep what you learned yours. We trained in silence, no records, no observers. Breath as metronome, dust as clock, echoes as compass, lessons no manual could hold. The army stamped its seals, reassigned names, buried files. They thought it finished, but within 48 hours, whispers spread mess halls, barracks, coffee cups. They called it many things. In the end, just one raven on the range. On my last morning, I packed the case rifle, journal, nothing else. As I passed the firing line, one by one, shooters lowered their rifles, not in protest, but to breathe, to listen for a single holy moment. The valley itself seemed to hold its breath. I walked until the desert wind tugged my sleeves. Carrying Logan's words back through stone silence is its own kind of voice. I smiled, unseen, because it had already taught them everything they needed. Teach people to listen before you teach them to shoot. Skills without conscience are just tools for someone else. Some legacies aren't owned. They're carried quietly forward by those who know what to protect.